You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Hey kids, guess what? It's the Code RAD show once again. This time we're going back to the 90s to explore some conspiracy television fiction. First, Interplanet Volume 1, available at funmycomic.com, and also Tales of Conspiracy and Madness, available on Amazon. Yes, and so today I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to talk a little bit about Dean Koontz. Back in the 90s, he came out with a few like sort of techno conspiracy thrillers. I bought Dark Rivers of the Heart. I think I got it about 97, I would say. I just thought it was a super cool name and, a super cool title for a book. And it was the absolute definition of a page turner. Loved it. And so I read the books that followed that one. Including Fear Nothing and Seize the Night, were a part of a trilogy, which is still unfinished. If you look up Dean Koontz, look up his bibliography on Wikipedia, you will see there is a third book listed in the trilogy, which still has not been published 25 years later. These are just great conspiracy page turners, which, looking back from present day perspective, I wonder if maybe the publisher said, X-Files is all the rage. Can you give us something like that? And he did. These are wonderful books. However, there is one missing here. Soul Survivor came out in 1997, and like the other books, is a real page turner, just fantastically written. All four books, well, I would say Soul Survivor and Dark Rivers of the Heart. And look, I got my copy of Dark Rivers of the Heart right there. Soul Survivor, Dark Rivers of the Heart kind of have the same plot. These books deal with a woman who invents some really amazing technology, which is misused by a corporation or the government. With really awful results, of course. Happen to notice that this cool cover was designed by Chip Kidd. Well, here is the cast of the movie. A few years later, 2000, there was a made-for television movie based on Soul Survivor, which is kind of a full circle because, as I speculated, it seems like these novels were maybe created to capitalize on the success of the X-Files. And then Fox turned this novel into a television movie, which feels a lot like an episode of the X-Files. And we'll talk about that a lot. If you're a fan of the X-Files and you've watched every episode 5 times, I've only watched seasons 1 through 4. I enjoy X-Files. I've had a difficult time working it into my schedule. For some reason, I was too snobbish back then to watch it on a regular basis. I enjoyed an episode now and then, but I had originally just I'd already gotten into Twin Peaks, and X-Files at the time seemed like weak tea to me compared to Twin Peaks, which I thought was pretty much the ultimate anything. X-Files seemed like a pale copy. I appreciate it more now, and I do need to return to it. But here we have the cast of Soul Survivor. All the way to the right is Gloria Rubin, and the little girl in the middle is Rachel Victoria. I'm not going to talk too much about them right now because they don't feature a lot in part 1. This is most sources call it a television movie. It's 2 parts, so it's a miniseries, TV movie, what have you. This little girl, Rachel Victoria, even though she barely appears in the first episode, her Wikipedia page says that she appeared in Millennium, which of all the actors gives her the closest connection to X-Files, which kind of surprised me because it really feels like they were going for an X-Files feeling for this show. But most of the actors had no connection. Billy Zane does a great job in the lead role. Makes you wonder why we don't see too much of him anymore, since he was everywhere in the 90s, like on Twin Peaks. He played the Phantom, a movie I have not seen since the 90s. I'd love to revisit it, but again, it's hard finding time for all this stuff. And of course, the last thing I remember him in was the big villain in Titanic. I don't think I've seen him in anything since then. And also very notable that in this movie, Soul Survivor, he seems to be playing Dean Koontz. I will let the pictures speak for themselves. Of course, shortly after this, Dean Koontz changed his appearance, even going back and changing his author photo on the back of old books, which is really confusing. I can't think of any other time that's ever happened. But this is how Dean Koontz presented in the 90s, and that's how Billy Zane looks in this movie. John C. McGinley plays evil CIA officer in this movie, hunting down our hero, as well as other characters in the movie. And I always thought he was the same person as John Glover. Only researching this video did I realize that they're completely different people. So you learn something new all the time. There's a picture of John Glover, of course, from Gremlins 2, a movie I love. And here is maybe the top connection of Soul Survivor to X-Files. Music by Mark Snow. The music does remind one of X-Files. The other big connection, which is pretty obvious if you're paying attention, this movie was clearly shot in Vancouver. At the end, it says, thank you to British Columbia. So it looks a lot like X-Files. So you've got the locations, you've got the music, you've got the atmosphere, you've got the conspiracy storyline. So I don't know if X-Files was still really huge in 2000, probably was, but Fox had a neat little thing for X-Files fans. And as I mentioned, the source material is great, very entertaining book. The teleplay by Richard Christian Matheson, the son of Richard Matheson, of course, very famous author of I Am Legend and Twilight Zone episodes. His son, RCM, has a multitude of credits. He wrote lots and lots of television. And same thing with Mikhail Salomon. Directed tons and tons of television, very prolific cinematographer. But both of them, Mikhail and Richard, no connection to the X-Files as far as I could see, which was a little bit surprising. So Billy Zane's character, Joe Carpenter, is going to the cemetery to visit the grave of his wife and daughter, even though I guess they're not really buried there because, of course, it becomes sort of a mystery. Are they really dead? I think in this scene, Rachel Hunter, is her name? Rachel Tucker. Rachel Tucker tells him that his wife and daughter may not actually be dead, and then runs off because she's being chased by John C. McGinley right here, who does a great job as an evil government agent. But of course, Joe is able to escape from him, goes into his job. I think he's on a leave of absence. His coworkers are pretty surprised, a little bit alarmed to see him in the office. He's a reporter. And so he has to go into the office to do some internet research because it's the 90s. He gets a phone call while he's there, very cryptic message, which sends him on a mission. finds a tracker underneath his truck, which gives a little bit of credence to, his paranoia. Because, of course, people are telling him, you're paranoid. Here's his grief counselor who tells him, stop with this. You're just making stuff up because of your grief. You're sad about your wife and daughter being dead. But he seems kind of sketch. And even though I watched this movie back in 2000 and read the book, I don't really remember, but he seems pretty suspicious. I have a feeling he has some ulterior motives besides helping Joe with his trauma. Joe goes to visit the family of another flight victim, someone else that died on the plane. And as you can see, they are all smiles, and they are telling him there's nothing to worry about. There is life after death. They are just very pleasant, happy people, as you can see in this picture. And you get the sense like their kind of hippy-dippy attitude is not going to stand up too well when you have these evil government assassins on your tail. Joe goes upstairs and sees this. Not good. And this lady who is at the party, you could see probably just from this picture, she turns evil, blows up the house, and she changes her personality before she blows up the house, which, if you're paying attention, kind of gives you a clue to the plot of the storyline. I include this guy. This is John C. McGinley's partner, another evil CIA guy. And I include a picture of him. He's not that major, but he is also another Dean Koontz doppelganger, which I found interesting. Here's a scene that kind of undermines their villainy. John is coming back to his vehicle. He's at a mall, and he sees these two doofuses just shining a flashlight in his vehicle. They are not quite the best evil agents ever. John easily avoids them in this situation, just turns around, walks away, and gets on a plane as well. CIA is after this guy, and he's able to just sneak up behind them and then walk away, get on a plane. I mean, it was the 90s. We didn't have quite the security network that we have now, but he goes to visit this NTSB worker who investigated the plane crash. It was very unusual. She had a visit from those evil CIA agents. I don't want to give away too much. I would like to do episode 2 next week. I would like to do some research and see the ratings. Not too much happened in this first episode. Comparing it to an episode of the X-Files, this would be much more like a mythology episode of the X-Files. Whereas, with a Monster of the Week episode of the X-Files, you would get like pretty much a whole sort of straight to video quality monster movie condensed into 45 minutes that more often than not really delivered. Was a great little movie. There's not that much in this. I could imagine a lot of viewers being kind of bored by this program and maybe not tuning in to episode 2, but I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't think the story dragged. I was into it. I like stories about guys, uncovering deep, dark secrets, a vast government conspiracy. And, I'll be back soon with part 2. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back next week. This is Code Rad signing out.